wagojee miaka 10 Uhuru amalize kazi yake, alafu wagojee miaka ingine 10 Ruto amalize kazi yake. Si mimi nimesema nitaunga mkono ndugu yangu Mheshimiwa Ruto? Kwani ni Mkikuyu lazima awe ni Mkikuyu? Si yeye atakuja na timu yake ile atakuja naye.
Uhuru Kenyatta is now setting the stage for a major contest with his deputy William Ruto. The president has promised to hit the road and campaign against Ruto's candidacy 5 months to the general election.
In Kenya's political arena, a powerful story was sold to the people. It was a story of betrayal of a deputy president pushed aside by his boss, a simple hustler fighting back against the powerful, rich families, the dynasties, as he liked to call them. This story was so perfect, so believable, that it convinced a whole nation and put William Samoei Ruto in the State House. But what if that betrayal was all an act? What if the public bitter fight between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy was not a real political split, but a clever, planned lie? A lie designed to save their political future and win the biggest prize of all. This is the story of that lie. The story of how two men who had shared power and scandal for 10 years faked a public breakup to trick the country. And this is the story of the heavy price Kenyans are paying today for believing that act. The year is 2013. Kenya is excited by the promise of the Uhuru Ruto team. Two young, strong leaders facing charges at the International Criminal Court joined forces under the Jubilee banner. They promised a new beginning, a digital revolution, free laptops for children, 5 new stadiums, and 1 million jobs every year. They presented themselves as the future, a fresh start away from the old politics. The truth of their first term was very different from the bright campaign. The Jubilee government became famous for huge corruption scandals. From the National Youth Service (NYS) scandal, where billions disappeared.
Now, the Kenyan Devolution Cabinet Secretary Uhuru has confirmed that over R1 billion was lost in 2 separate deals that are under investigations in the National Youth Service.
To the Aror and Kimorer dams scandal, the government lost the public's trust and money. The economy, which relied on huge loans for big projects like the Standard Gauge Railway, SGR, started to struggle under massive debt. By the year 2017, the excitement had turned into deep public anger and a feeling of being cheated. The two leaders, once seen as heroes, were now viewed as the people who caused the economic crisis and the widespread corruption. The political ground shook on the 9th of March 2018 with the famous handshake between President Kenyatta and his longtime rival, Raila Odinga. This moment, which was supposed to bring the country together, became the start of the biggest political drama in Kenya. It was the moment Deputy President William Ruto was clearly pushed aside. Everyone thought Kenyatta had simply broken his promise to his deputy. The promise of kumi yangu, kumi yako. My 10 years, your 10 years.
Wagojee miaka 10 Uhuru amalize kazi yake, alafu wagojee miaka ingine 10 Ruto amalize kazi yake.
But this is where the theory of the planned lie begins. Political experts and people close to the government started to whisper. Ruto, as the sitting deputy president, was too damaged. He was completely tied to the Jubilee government's failures, the debt, and the corruption. If he had run as Kenyatta's choice, he would have been crushed by the public's anger against the current government. The only way for him to win was to become the outsider. Ruto clearly used his position as a victim. He changed his image to become the champion of the hustler nation, the ordinary people fighting against the rich, privileged dynasties, the Kenyatta and Odinga families. He turned his public shame into his biggest political strength, changing the anger against Jubilee into a vote of sympathy for him. The 2022 election was not about what the candidates planned to do. It was a fight against two stories. On one side, Raila Odinga, supported by President Kenyatta, represented keeping things the same. On the other, William Ruto, the supposed victim, the self-made man, represented change. Ruto's win, by a very small difference, proved how powerful his story was. He convinced most voters that he was not the second in command of the failed Jubilee government, but a man who had been trying to fight corruption from the inside, only to be betrayed.
William Ruto, who was speaking during a Kenya Kwanza campaign tour of Kisii and Nyamira counties, claimed all failures of the Jubilee administration should be blamed on the alliance between President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga.
The irony is clear. A man who had been the second most powerful person in the country for 10 years successfully ran as the anti-government candidate. The lie had worked. The sympathy vote, driven by the belief in his betrayal, had given him the presidency. The act ended the moment he took the oath. The hustler government, serikali ya bodaboda na mama mboga, just over a year in power, started making decisions that seemed to hurt the very people who voted for him. The economy, far from being saved, is now seen by many critics as getting worse. The introduction of new harsh taxes, including the controversial finance bills, caused huge public outcry. The same hustlers who were promised a better life found themselves struggling with the cost of living crisis that is arguably harder than anything they faced before. Perhaps the most worrying sign is the return of the heavy hand of the state. The peaceful Gen Z protests against the finance bill in 2024 were met with brutal force. Reports from human rights groups documented many deaths, hundreds of injuries, and a worrying trend of abductions and forced disappearances of government critics and activists. The government, which promised to listen to the people, seems to be using force and fear to silence anyone who disagrees. The lie that brought the president to power has led to a harsh reality where the freedom to speak out is shrinking. The political cleverness of the fake fight is clear. It was a perfect plan that used the public's anger at the Jubilee government and turned it into a sympathy vote for the man who was, in fact, a key part of that government. But the cost to the country is huge. The lie has resulted in a presidency built on a fake story of being a victim, leading to a government that many now feel is even more out of touch and financially harsh than the one before it. The story of the lie that made Ruto president is a warning for every democracy. It reminds us that in the world of political acting, the most convincing performance can be the most dangerous. The question for Kenyans now is, how long will they keep paying the price for believing the lie? And what will it take to demand a government that truly works for the hustlers and not just for the power it brings? This story is not just about Ruto or Uhuru. It is about how narratives can overpower truth, how emotion can silence memory, how leaders can escape responsibility by changing the story, not the system. Kenya did not just vote for a man, it voted for a story. And until citizens demand truth over performance, the next lie is already being written.
Uhuru Kenyatta, my brother William Ruto.
And help us take Kenya the next day.